That's what I teach in speech class. So we're going to make sure that you have something else to do. We're going to get you sort of active first. Stand up. Everybody stand up. See, the reason I went into teaching was so that I had this rush, this power that I can tell people what to do and they actually do it. And this is the only place in my life that happens. I do it in here as much as I can. We're going to do a little exercise. We're going to have to make some choices. Right? Now, you make choices all the time in everyday life, right? You decide, you get up in the morning, you decide what you're going to wear. You decide, where you're going to stop for gas and what school you go to and all the different things throughout life. And when you go to college, when you come to college, you have lots of choices to make. So we're going to do a little exercise here. We're going to have to make some forced choices. Some of the alternatives, you may not like either one of them, okay? But you have to choose one or the other. And we're going to divide the room right down the middle here, okay? So get you just separate a little bit, okay? We're just going to have an imaginary line down the middle here. And I'll use your imagination, right? You watch Mr. Rogers. Have an imaginary line here down the middle. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you two choices. There's A choice and B choice. And you are to go to the side of the room that you most agree with, okay? Like which of the two do you like best, A or B, and then you move to whichever side, okay? That means you would actually have to walk across the room, okay? Is that clear? Clear? So I'm going to give you the first example, okay? Which of the following do you like best? Red or blue? Okay, red over here, blue over here. Go for it. Go. Yeah. Go. Move. Okay, so you all red people, right? Okay.
We leave our stuff over there?
You can leave your stuff there, yeah. Yeah, we'll guard it, okay? We'll make sure it's... Okay, so next we have yellow or green. Yellow or green?
Like bright colors, actually.
Okay. 3 yellows, okay? All right. How about steak or chicken? All the men go over to the snake side. Yeah. These are the people with high cholesterol over here. Do we have shrimp or lobster?
Neither.
Gotta make a choice. Gotta make a choice. Shrimp or lobster? Shrimp or lobster? Come on. Come on. You'll say lobster. How about night or day?
Well,
Night or day? So these are night owls. These are the people who stay out till 2 and 3 in the morning. All right. Sun or moon? Sun or moon? The sun over here or the moon over here? Okay, so we have 9 people who prefer the sun. You guys are mixed up. Okay. How about fall or spring? Fall or spring? Some tough decisions, I know. Okay, snow skiing or water skiing? Snow skiing, we gotta make a choice. Which do you like best, snow skiing or water skiing? Our line is becoming blurred here. Okay, here's a good one. Star Wars or Superman? Star Wars or Superman? Yeah, there you go. This is self-esteem, right? Country or rock? Why does that not surprise you?
Here,
You're in the middle, okay. Now, you gotta choose. Make a choice. There you go, that's tough, isn't it? These important decisions are the hard ones. How about jazz or classical? Jazz or classical? Boy, you guys are indecisive. All right, would you like to travel to the mountains or the seashore? The mountains or the seashore? Trying to decide what everybody else is doing. How about Hawaii or Alaska? Hawaii or Alaska?
I meant to go there.
You meant to go over there, but you get there. Come on. Don't want to make Tony feel all by himself up there, right? All right, how about Tokyo or Paris? Okay, how about Detroit or Chicago? Detroit or Chicago?
Never been to
Stay there. Okay, all by yourself. Everybody else on the other side. You're going to stay right there. Would you like to travel by airplane or ship? Airplane or ship? Ship. Airplane's over here. Ship's over here. How about motorcycle or automobile? Motorcycle or automobile?
Traveling?
Traveling, yeah. Is it a long trip? That's what you're going to know, right?
Yeah.
How about a horse or a camel? Horse or camel?
We're getting credit for this?
Yeah. And your aerobic exercise also. Dog sled or bicycle? Dog sled over here, bicycle over here. How about a dog sled or bicycle? All right. It's getting tougher here. Would you rather own a Mercedes or a BMW?
I'll take a Brewer.
A Mercedes?
I'll take
Oh, yeah, well, I'll take either one. A BMW. How about gold or silver? How about emeralds or diamonds?
Either one. I'll take the most
Really?
expensive.
Okay. How about Cadillac or Rolls Royce? Cadillac over here, Rolls Royce over here.
Cadillac.
How about, would you rather have a painting or print? A painting? Yeah. Or a print? A print, yeah. You know, that's the thing you do know. All right, what's more important to you? What is more important? Recognition or a need to belong? Recognition or a need to belong? How about family or job? Family over here and job over here. The lone man that will be able to afford the Rolls Royce is over here. Job. How about a monthly paycheck or paid on commission? Monthly paycheck over here, paid on commission over here. Why?
Monthly's over here.
Monthly's over here. Yeah. Commission's over here. Yeah. Monthly commission. All these secure people are. All right. How about work? What's more important? Working conditions or a good income? Working conditions or a good income? Yeah. How about what's more important to you? Being paid by check or being paid by cash? What do you prefer? Being paid by check or being paid by cash? Over the table.
Oh, it's tax evaders.
Okay. Who do you admire the most? Over here, General Patton. Over here, Abraham Lincoln. General Patton, Abraham Lincoln. How about Benjamin Franklin or Rembrandt? Benjamin Franklin over here. Or Rembrandt. Who's Rembrandt? Rembrandt. Okay. How about, let's see, how about Albert Einstein or Martin Luther King? Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King. Okay. John Kennedy or Winston Churchill? John Kennedy or Winston Churchill? Now, you tend to judge people. You tend to judge people by what they say or body language and appearance. What they say or body language and appearance. Well, one or the other. Which is more important? Okay. Movement there. At a spectator sport, are you better at keeping score over here or mapping out play strategies over here? Keeping score or mapping out play strategies? Do you work better when you do specialized work or when you can plug your work into the big picture? Specialized work over here, plug your work into the big picture over here. Okay. Two more. You keep your desk. Do you keep your desk neat and orderly or messy and cluttered? That's neat. Okay, and when you work on a project, do you start right away once you have a feel for it or analyze all of the facts before starting? Start right away or analyze all the facts? Alright. Just get your exercise there. That's the whole point you're on there for. Okay. Very good. Have a seat. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to get in. Go ahead and take a seat. And I want you to get in groups of 4 or 5 real quickly. You have a little informal group there, like you have 4 or 5. Turn around, talk to one another about how the choices you made and what choice was the most difficult for you. We'll just take a couple minutes real quickly, okay? Come on. Turn around. Come on, move your chairs. It's not a configuration where people can actually talk, okay? A little circle here, a little circle 3. 3, work. Here. Okay, come on. Come on. What choice was the most difficult for you, and why? What choice was most difficult for you? None of them, all of them? Huh? Not too bad? Did you make any, were you with the group most of the time, or were you with the minority?
I mean, was there a question that
That's the most difficult one.
Which would you rather?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to judge people. I think there's a lot of times people who generally have to do one or the other.
More self-important, I'd rather take pain than somebody.
That's true.
Yeah.
You can't just put less pepper, is that right? What was the toughest decision over here?
Well, there was a couple of them, but I can't remember.
Okay.
I have a short-term memory
You
problem.
have short-term memory problem. Okay, you can open it up. It's in your book. Oh, it's the first list. There you go, right there. And a BMW is a tough choice, huh?
No, this is a tough choice. I'd rather take
Beamer anytime.
I don't like Mercedes.
Like Mercedes, kind of open price though. You have the choices there. The first thing in your book. What was the toughest choice?
I could go.
Yeah, that's tough. What did you choose?
Because
Really? Was it because everybody was already up there? So I wanted to belong to what everybody else is doing, so I'm going to say what I can. Okay. What's the toughest choice for here?
The Mercedes and the Cadillac, or the
BMW?
yeah.
It's really tough. What did you decide?
I went with the Wisconsin.
Probably a wise choice.
what you've done.
This is all hypothetical anyway, so.
And whether it be paid by check.
But they each have their advantages. Your cash, you want to also have the choice. So there's no racket. What's your toughest choice here?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't make Yeah, we skipped the Barbra Streisand, that's Scott Fitzgerald. Okay. I don't know. I just chose to.
Let's do it then right now.
Let's not. Half of them know.
Let's not say we need.
Oh, yeah, let's not say we did. There you go. All right. Some of the things that we learned from this kind of lesson, okay? Some of the things we learned from this kind of little exercise. First of all, I had several people say, we're talking about water skiing and snow skiing. He says, I like both. I like both, but you can't always have everything you like, right? Sometimes you have to make a decision between those two things. Or sometimes we have, I don't like either one. I don't want to choose red or blue, who cares? You know? But sometimes we make those sorts of decisions in our life too, right? We have to choose one or the other, and we don't always like the alternatives. So that's part of making choices when we come here. How about some of you, let's see, anybody left alone? Who was the camel person? Who was the camel guy? Okay, you were a lone camel, but you got somebody else come over there with you. Tony, were you in camel? Who else went over the camel? Why did you decide to choose camel all by yourself when everybody else chose the other one?
Because horse you got to stop and then get drink water and camel can go a lot longer.
Camel can go for the very economical. That camel's gonna last a long time. How did it make you feel over there? Yeah, you could be in the desert. That's right. That's right. How did it make you feel all by yourself when you were the only one? Any problem with that? No. Did anybody? Yeah.
Yeah, very awkward actually.
Awkward?
Yeah, very.
Okay. Which one were you by yourself on one of them?
When I think it was the 8th, no? Yeah. Oh,
Martin Luther King? Well, no, you were with him too. There was just the two of you. Yeah. And how did that feel for you? Was it awkward for you too? No big deal. Okay. Well, either one of those reactions are very normal, very, a lot of us, some of us don't mind as being the only one that thinks this way, and others of us would prefer that maybe we had some other people that said the same thing too. Not that we won't go ahead and do it, but it's still a little bit more awkward for us to do that. And a lot of that is based on our self-esteem, on how we view ourselves, and that's what this seminar is about. Is self-esteem and self-concept. And those are two things that we're going to talk about for a little bit today. Let's begin by talking about those two and see if we can come up with a difference between the two of them. Let me see what I do. Who can tell me what the difference is, or what is self-esteem? I know?
What you feel about yourself?
Okay. How you feel about yourself. How about self-concept?
How you see yourself?
Very good. Who said that? Good job. How you see yourself. And these are pretty closely related. How we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves are not necessarily the same thing, but they're usually fairly closely related. A lot of things influence our self-esteem and our self-concept. Our self-concept may change. It may change from the different roles that we have in life. And in one place we're a student, in another place we may be a son or a daughter, another place we may be a mother or a father or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or an employee or whatever. And the way we view ourselves might change from that, as may our self-esteem, because we may feel secure in our role in this instance and not quite as secure in our role in this instance. And there are a lot of things that affect that, and we make decisions like that. And we're going to talk about today some of the aspects that affect why we make the decisions that we make and how we view ourselves. And hopefully look at some ways that perhaps we can view ourselves realistically enough to become successful in what we do. That's the purpose of this whole college strategies set of seminars, is to help you be successful here, regardless of what your background is. You may be someone who's just coming straight out of high school. You may be someone who's been out in the work world. You may be someone who has been at home taking care of kids. Who knows? Which doesn't really matter a lot on what your background is. What does matter is that coming to college is an adjustment. It's a new experience for most of us whenever we start out. And we have to make some adjustments of our self-concept in that role and how we're going to succeed and or fail in that situation and what we can do to make ourselves successful. And so we're going to look at some strategies to do that today. But before we do that, we have another little activity for you, okay? If you'll, before you turn anywhere in your book, you don't need to look at this yet. I want you to find somebody else that you don't already know, okay? Don't pick a friend, but pick a partner, all right? And just visit with him or her for about 5 minutes, okay? That should be easy. That's an easy assignment. Don't have anything you have to do except just talk, okay? Most of us can do that. So pick a partner now. Go ahead. Pick a partner. And just visit for a few minutes, okay? About 5 minutes. And then I'll tell you what to do after that. Right? You two here. You two here. Here. You two doing? Okay. You two. Right? Who's together? This is the tough choice again. Fourth choice. You have to make a choice. Two. That's me two. You two. You two. Okay. You two. You two. You two. All right. Even number. That's what I like. Just visit. Just talk. Just breathe. You know.
What brings you to
You visit for a few minutes. This is what I want you to do. Open up your booklet to, there's a page in there, it's like the third document in there, called Forming First Impressions. It says Forming First Impressions at the top. Right? See it? Right get there. Forming First Impressions. It's after the empowerment questionnaire. All right, we're all there. This is what you need to do. You'll see you have two categories: identifying data and then attitudes, and then if you flip the page over on the back, you'll see a section called interpersonal communication patterns. What you're going to do, without talking to your partner again, you need to fill in this data, the identifying data and their attitudes and their interpersonal communication styles, from your conversation, what you perceive this person to be like, okay? So, first question is their name. Did you ask their name? If you didn't ask their name, you may have to take a guess there. How old do you think they are? What do you think their major is? What do you think their relational status is? Are they single or whatever? Then, what do you think their political orientation is? What kind of music do they like to listen to? After you've done that, go down and do the attitudes. You're rating their attitudes on these different aspects from 1 to 5. So look at that scale. All right? So take a few minutes to do that. Now, don't ask them. And don't copy them. Do your own work and look over your shoulder. Okay?
He didn't do any talking, I did all this.
Uh-oh. Well, that says something, I guess. Now, you're not asking. You're not telling him your name, are you? Why did you think this? Because they're this age, or they're from this part of the country, or they're male, or they're female, or they're whatever. Or that could work too. We all know it's just an experiment. Okay? Hedge your bet. That's what you do. And then decide after you've rated them, what cues did you use? Why do you think he thinks this or she thinks this? You don't have to know for sure, just take a stab at it. After you've done the front side, flip over and do the back side as well. At the top of the back side, it asks you to rate your perception of their interpersonal communication types or methods. Okay? After you've done that, it uses the same scale, and it's there on the back side there for you. 1, strongly agree, to 5, strongly disagree. Okay, and it's also there on that second sheet, on the back side. And after you've rated them, then go and answer the same questions about yourself. Okay, and it has them listed there. And what do you feel about this? And what do you think about this? Read the question. Follow the instructions. You didn't know you had to think this much when you came here. Use the same point system for up there and then below it also, yeah. then get back together and compare how you thought they felt about something as opposed to how they really felt about it.
Can we
Okay?
just swap?
No, I want you to talk. Unless you're afraid that, it's fisticuffs or something. But compare how you thought they thought about it as opposed to how they actually felt. Okay? And see how similar or different, you are. Like, did you think they liked this kind of music and they actually like this kind? Paul, how did you do? Did you get pretty close to what you thought? Was your perception pretty close to the reality? No, over here. What was the deal? Tell us about it. What happened?
Well, see, I put marriage and age together or whatever, so that really totally changed my whole life.
Okay. You said that you thought he was.
A little bit older than what his age is.
You said he thought he was 34 and he's actually
25.
25. Okay. All right. And did you think he was married?
Hey, but he is married.
He is married. Okay. So you got that right.
So I got those.
So because you pegged him at 34 and married,
Right.
then you changed other things.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Everything else was off.
I did the same thing to Calvin.
Okay. Like,
Well, I figured he's been around longer, so the way he feels and sees things are more set, more not. Well, I know, but that's
what
that comes with the difference in ages.
okay. We have a tendency. Hi. How you doing? You waiting for the 1:30 session? Okay.
About 62. How old do you think I am?
Okay. Go ahead and take it.
Yeah. You said
The way that we don't get into an argument, guys. Okay.
He said
Take it outside.
all retired people do it at 62, right?
Oh,
No?
no, I don't know.
Another misconception I have.
Let me ask something over here. Okay. Now, what kind of music did you say that you like?
Coach?
And what kind of music do you like?
Country.
You like country. Now, why did you think you like country music? Could it be the hat and the cowboy shirt and the Wranglers and the cowboy boots? Yeah, it was, right? You make those sorts of judgments about people because of their appearance, right? We do that all the time, don't we, in real life? And if you were on the side that said, no, I judge people by what they say or what they do, not by how they appear in their body language, then you find that actually we're a little bit of both, as we were talking earlier, that it's kind of a combination of that. Now, if you were fairly close in your judgments, how can you make those accurate judgments to somebody you just talked with for 5 minutes? How are you able to do that? I mean, you were way off, but were you all pretty close?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay, and how can you do that when you've only known them for 5 minutes?
Well, you feel about stuff like that.
Hey, you sort of get a sense, right? Because we send off signals about ourselves, and people pick up those signals. They may not always be accurate what they pick up, but they do pick them up. And we are saying about ourselves things by the way we dress, by what we talk about. We have a tendency to put people in particular categories because they're of a particular age, or we think they're of a particular age. And our self-esteem and acceptance from others is determined a lot by those sorts of things, right? And that's what we're going to look at here for a few minutes. So let's talk about, now that we've done that, let's talk about some of the things that influence our self-esteem, all right? Let's see if we can come up with a list here of things, factors that influence self-esteem. By the way, I never got good marks for penmanship, okay? That's why I wanted to be a teacher, so that no one could read what I wrote. Let's do factors that influence self-esteem. What are some of them? I'm going to let you come up with them. What? Sorry. Clothing, okay? Let's make that a bigger appearance. Okay? And we'll go clothing. Clothing says a lot about us, right? How we dress gives off certain signals, and we say something about ourselves by how we dress, whether we're clean or not, whether we're wearing a hat or not, or whether we're wearing boots and jeans or a suit and tie. I all the time get people, they start, if they're in my classroom, for instance, I teach writing classes, and when it's free writing time, I'll turn on music, and it's usually country, and people are like, you're a country music fan, you like country music? Because I say, you don't look like somebody who likes country music, okay? Because they're making judgments from how I dress, okay? And that sort of thing. And I don't know what a country music person looks like, but it can be me. Clothing and hairstyle. Had a guy in the last session who had hair about down to here, and he had a beard, and an earring, and a necklace on, and jeans and all, and he said he was a conservative Republican. Okay, and everybody go, yeah, right. But he says, yeah, that was his political orientation. He was Republican. He considered himself conservative, but he's not dressed that way because his hairstyle, his beard, all of that said something about him that people said, well, you don't fit the mold, And that's okay if we don't fit the mold. We're not saying that everybody needs to fit the mold by any means, but you have to understand that people make those sorts of judgments about us all the time, right? All right, appearance. What else?
MTV.
MTV, okay. We're going to call MTV as something that influences our self-esteem.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, let's call that the media.
Right.
MTV, other television shows, sitcoms, the news media, all of that influences our self-esteem. How? How so? What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned MTV.
Because I think you get a reference point like everybody else does, and then you get to look like the people out there or whatever, then you come to feel out of place.
Okay, very good. We use that as a reference point, as you said, oftentimes. It's probably, quite frankly, not a very accurate reference point, right? But if we're comparing ourselves to the people on television, a lot of times it just doesn't match, right? So the media is another thing that influences our self-esteem. What else? Looking at a big one here. How about family? Does family influence our self-esteem?
Well, they make you either feel good or bad about yourself.
Okay. It could be positive or negative. Studies show that children who are raised in households where both parents have positive self-esteem about themselves, they are more likely to have a positive self-esteem as well. That only makes sense, doesn't it? Children who are raised where both parents have a negative self-esteem, then they're likely to have negative self-esteem. Surprisingly, children who are raised in families that have one parent who's positive and another parent who's negative, then the likelihood is that they will gravitate toward the parent that has a positive self-esteem. They want to model that because we want to model those positive images in our lives. However, they also have, children in that situation, oftentimes also have that negative undercurrent where they sort of doubt whether they live up to that positive self-esteem that they're trying to emulate. A lot because of how their parents have treated them, what they've said to them. Now, obviously, a lot of times, it may not be a positive, it may not be an intentional sort of thing, but parents do influence how we act and how we feel a lot. How many of you are this is your first time away from home to go to college, and first time you've been away for any lengthy period of time? No? Nobody? Yes? Yes, thank you for saving me there. It's your first time, all right? Have you been back home yet and visited? Okay, for just like a weekend? Was there any major difference in how mom and dad treated you? So wait till Christmas, okay? When you go home for Christmas, you've got those 2-3 weeks that you've been out on your own now for 15 weeks, and you've sort of been managing your own life quite well, thank you very much. And you've been coming in when you wanted to come in, and you've been getting up when you wanted to get up, and you've been making those choices. And all of a sudden, mom and dad have these other ideas, right? They think you ought to fit into this certain mold. They start treating you, well, I know you're this way, and you say, I'm not. Okay? I think it's even worse the summer. If you go back to the summer and you've gone a whole year, it really gets tangled. What is interesting is that even as we become adults and go out, and we may have families of our own, we go back to mom and dad's house, sometimes we find ourselves falling into those same patterns. Mom and dad still have us stuck at 18, and we have our own 18-year-olds, but they still want to treat us that same way. Okay? And we have a tendency to do that sort of thing. So it's very difficult to take ourselves away, remove ourselves from mom and dad's perceptions of us. And these perceptions, their perceptions may or may not be accurate. Maybe they're judging you from where you used to be, or what you used to think, or how you used to act. Or maybe they're on target here. I have a little cartoon I like. It talks about the difference in perception of parents and children, or adults and children. I thought it was pretty good. There he is out with his dad, and he says, "This is nothing. When I was your age, the snow was so deep it came up to my chin." Well, yeah. And it comes up to his chin, doesn't it? And it makes a big difference because he's an adult now and his perception is different. He's the dad, and so he has dad perceptions sometimes. So the perceptions that our family, our parents, and not just our parents, but our brothers and sisters and those sorts of things have about us, maybe positive, maybe negative, maybe correct or incorrect, but they still influence us. Still tell us a lot about who we are. All right, what else? Friends, that's a big one, isn't it? How do friends influence?
Well, they're our peers.
Okay. So, does that make a difference that they're our peers?
Well, you don't want friends that aren't
Get
your
compared
peers.
to them if you stay around.
You get compared to them to stay around. We're judged a lot by the people we hang around with, right? The people we hang out with. And whether that's right or wrong, that's the way the world works. And we get a lot of our own self-esteem. We tend to pick those people who we consider to be like ourselves, right? So, I mean, we've seen the movie, not the movie, the television show Cheers, right? Seen Cheers before. Okay, yeah, I don't know there's anybody on the planet that had 10 once. So, okay. The people that hang around that bar, are those a bunch of really go-getter, winner type people?
Yeah.
They're not, are they? Bunch of losers, right? And why do they hang around together? Because they're a bunch of losers, right? And that's what losers do, is they hang out with each other because that reflects their own. And you have a person who doesn't fit into that little mold, and after a while, they don't feel like they don't belong there anymore, and they go off. Okay? So you're here at college, you're trying to make your life, whatever it is. You need to decide who is it that you're going to hang around with. Who are these people? What are they saying about me? The people I hang around with. Do you choose to hang around with a bunch of people who don't think that going to class is really an important part of being successful, or that would choose to sleep through class than to get up and go, or that choose it's more important to work than it is to go to school? If those are the people you're hanging around with, guess what? Those are probably the actions that you're going to mimic, right? And that's probably, if you are coming to be successful, then that's probably not the people you want to hang out with, right?
I disagree with the Cheers scenario.
Really?
Yes, sir.
They call themselves the losers.
Well, that's just a game name, but I think most of them are winners academically. Sam was a ball player.
That's true. You can't be more of a winner than that.
Nothing better than being a ball player.
Yeah, we won't talk about that he was lonely and no family connections or anything at that age in his life. But hey, above all, they're all incredibly wealthy now, and that, of course, is the only thing that we're trying to get in life is real monetary
Is that
success.
what everybody wants?
Yeah, isn't that what everybody wants? Lots of
I
money?
stop off at the bar and spend $100 on beer every night.
Yeah, there you go. What else about friends? How else do friends influence us? We want to fit in, okay, that's true. What else?
They create direction.
Okay.
Their hobbies and goals become your hobbies and
Yeah, they do, don't they? And very, very rarely are you the one who changes the attitude of the crowd. You generally, as much as you'd like to be the one that stands out and does what you want to do, and as an individual, and we all like to think that we are, usually we have a tendency to sort of follow along with what everybody else does. There was a study done of elementary school children. I find this incredibly interesting myself. Elementary school children, they took 5 elementary kids, they set them down in a room. 4 of the kids were in on this, 1 wasn't, okay? They showed them 2 lines, line A and line B, okay? They told 4 of these kids that were in on this, they said, hey, when you're asked which of these lines is longer, you need to say they're both the same length. All right? So, we've got the 5 kids sitting there. They asked Johnny, which of these 2 is longer? And Johnny says, well, I think they're both the same length. Susie, which of these 2 is longer? Susie says they're both the same length. Fred says they're both the same length. Sam says they're both the same length. Child number 5, which of these 2 lines is longer? He sits there, okay? He has a quandary. 85% of the time they said, well, those 2 lines are the same length. Okay? Why do they do that when obviously line B is longer than line A? I mean, it's obvious there, isn't it? I mean, how could you not think that line B is longer than line A? There's no way. It's obviously longer.
They don't want to stick out.
They don't want to stick out and do that. You know what? This is the scary part. They did the same study with high school students. It went up to 92%. 92% said both are the same length, instead of standing up and saying, one's longer than the other. Okay? And we fall into those traps sometime. We were talking about going from here to here on this little osprey division thing, and it's like, well, let's see, I kind of think maybe I really think that, but everybody's over here, so it's not worth the hassle, right? Sometimes, I mean, it doesn't mean that everything, you don't have to make everything an issue by any means, but you do need to realize that those decisions that you make ought to be your own decisions. Isn't that right? Guys, isn't that right? What else influences us? We have friends, we have family, we have appearance, we have media. What else?
You just asked the question again. What else? How about our instructors?
Your instructors, okay? School. What number are we there? 5. How do those influence us?
How they teach us.
How they relate? How what else? It can change your life, okay?
The main thing, you just want to make more money. That'll change your life drastically.
Making more money?
Yeah.
You
Make
can.
happy people.
Positive or negative. Doesn't necessarily make you happy.
Well, it's true.
Let's see. Give the tools for monetary success. As teaching an English course, I deal with a lot of students who come in thinking they can't do English. They can't write, or at least they don't want to, they don't like to, they hate it. In fact, it's probably one of the most hated subjects that people have to take. And sometimes, as an English teacher, I wonder why I went into that. And so I realized that I think it's really important. I think it's an important skill. I think it's something that people need to be able to do. The reason they have those sorts of negative attitudes oftentimes is their past experience with English instructors. If I have somebody who thinks, yeah, I like to write, I do well at that, after I talk to them, I realize that they've had probably a positive experience in writing previously. And we have a tendency to do that in all aspects of our life, don't we? We think we can do this well, therefore we do it, and we become even better at it. We think we don't do this very well, so we avoid it, and we don't become very good at it. Right? We do a lot about in things in our life about what other people tell us we can and cannot do. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy, by the way. I like this little Garfield cartoon. I don't know if you're a Garfield fan, but he says, I wonder if I could stand on just 2 feet. He says, hey, standing, this is great, I'm standing, now I can tap dance, but I can reach the tabletop and drop kick Odie. And then he says, Garfield cats can't walk on their hind feet. And so, of course, smack, and he says, see? Garfield says, well, thanks a lot. Right? And Garfield was too stupid. He was stupid enough to think that he could actually do something. And until he was told that he couldn't, he was able to do it, right? And a lot of us are like that. We think we can do it, and when somebody tells us we can't, then all of a sudden we start thinking, well, maybe we can. There was a study, I don't recall the name of it, I wish I did because it makes it sound much more credible if I remember the name of it, but there was a manufacturer of punch cards for, this is back when computers were those great big things that you had to punch the computer punch cards through. And there was a company that made these punch cards, and the manufacturer of the machine that did the punch cards told the workers that they would probably be able to do about 550 of these cards per day when they got really good at it. Okay? It would take them some time to get good at this, but when they got good at it, they'd be able to do about 550. That was their estimation. So that, but if you're doing more than that, it's probably called undue stress on the workers. Sure enough, they do the training. After about a couple of weeks, these workers get proficient at it, and they're doing right around 550, 560 a day. And the business catches on, and more people are using it. So they had to hire some new workers. So they hired new workers, they put them on, and they never told them that they're supposed to do 550 a day. In a little time, they were doing 2,000 a day with no added stress. Okay? Now, why is that? Because nobody told them they couldn't, right? You fit into a mold that you've already been told. And you know, college is the great equalizer regardless of where you're coming from. This is your time to be who you want to be. I purposely went to college 2,000 miles away from home because I wanted to go to a place where nobody knew me, where I didn't have to fit into any sort of mold that somebody already had about me. And that, I think it was a good thing for me. I wanted to go and see and prove to myself that I could succeed on my own grounds. I came from a small school, so it was nice to go to a school where I didn't know anybody. So we have a tendency to fit into other people's expectations of us. And we have to tell ourselves that, hey, you know, we can make or break our own faith in many instances. All right. School and instructors, what else? Anything else?
Your job.
Job, okay? How can that influence us? How the boss treats you. How the boss treats you, okay? How about the status of the job? The career. What career we choose. You know, if you're from a family who your dad was a doctor, and his dad was a doctor, and his dad was a doctor, and his dad was a doctor, I'm getting sexist here, and his mother was a doctor, and you decide you want to be an actor, then you may be sort of bumping the system there, really. And that status of your job, doctors' families may not look upon acting as a real high profession, right? In fact, the regular world doesn't necessarily look on it unless you become successful and made a lot of money, then all of a sudden their perception changes. But the job that you have does have something to do with your self-esteem. It does say something about you. Right? And we generally want some sort of career that is considered professional. right? That is ranks high up there in people's perception. And what our career is and what we do well is important. Here's another one. Age. Now, how does age influence our self-esteem? What? You're only as young as you think you are. Okay? That's one way to look at it. Coming from, how old did you say you were, 27? Coming from a young person. The reason I say that is because this predisposes an idea that youth is a desirable thing and the opposite is not. Which shows right there our predetermined bias in our society against those who are not youthful.
How about your general surroundings?
Your environment, your general surroundings. You bet. It's interesting, I had a discussion this last session about this age thing. I had a guy who's about 19 who said, well, it's only old people. It's only old people who think that age is a problem. And I quickly asked him to define old, you know, and he says, oh, well, not 30 or 40 or 50. And he says, you know, old people up there. And it's like, you know, I had a lady who was in her late 50s, and she said, hey, I resent that. You know, what do you call old? And our perception of all that changes, right, as we get closer. Do you recall? I recall being in an elementary school and thinking, talking with my friends and their parents were the age I am now. And that's just scary. I mean, I didn't think that they were like decrepit or anything, but they were awfully adult. And I certainly don't feel that adult, you know? And age is a perception. And sometimes another guy said, well, you know, I'm only 20-some years old, and I go out to get a job, and they say, well, you know, we're really looking for someone with a little more experience, with a little more seasoning, and that sort of thing. And so age, in youth, it can be just as much a detriment as it can in less than youth, right? And when you come back to school, I remember going back to school, I wasn't, I was considered a non-traditional student because I've been out for a while. But I was still in like my mid-20s, and I had questions of whether I was going to fit in to what I perceived to be the typical college 18, 19-year-old person, because I was married, I had a kid, you know, I had all these other family responsibilities. I found that it wasn't a problem, but it still was something that you had to grapple with, that I had to grapple with, and I think that that's a common thing. Do you find that returning to school at a different age, but something that
I'm loving it.
you love it? Is your perspective different because of it?
Yeah, I'm more focused this time around.
Yeah. I definitely was, I know, when I went, because it was my money then. At 18, it was mom and dad's money, and it was, but it was my money, so it's like I have to make it work. So, but I think our perspective does change. The environment definitely affects us. How can that affect us? What's that environment over here? I gave you time to think of some reasons why. Dance. What?
When you caught me off guard.
Okay. He's saving you over here.
Where do you live?
Where you live and how you live. You know, it's much easier to feel good about ourselves if our living conditions are good, right? If we're not living in a pigsty, it helps. My wife and I have found we have a cardinal rule. We never go to bed with dishes in the sink. And that sounds like a stupid little rule. But if you go to bed with dishes in the sink, you get up the next morning and they're still there. You know? No little maids come in and do it overnight, and you just get depressed. Because you go in there and there's all these dirty dishes. And not to mention that you get bugs and all sort of stuff like that if you leave them out like that. But if we do them the night before, get up and it's a clean kitchen and all, the day can be good, right? And it's the same type of thing. If we live in a condition that's not good, then we have a tendency to feel badly about ourselves. Likewise, you know, they found that classrooms that have windows, that students perform better, amazingly, than windowless rooms such as we're in right now. That windows are more conducive to learning. In the 50s they had windows, in the 60s they took windows out of classrooms, in the 70s they said, we better put them back in. Okay? Because the perception was people are going to stare out the windows and daydream. No, and you never did that in school where you had windows, right? Never. You do have tendency to daydream. That's part of, we give ourselves little mini vacations. Little mini mental vacations, right? Now, you know some people who are on a permanent mental vacation. But we want those mini mental vacations because they help us cope, right? So where you live and how you live are important in how we deal with it. What else? Anything else? I have another one, if you don't.
Finance.
Okay, money, finance. Why?
Well, if you don't have it, you don't feel it. You can't do anything.
It's depressing, not having it.
Okay. It's stressful without money, isn't it? It's very stressful not to have money. In fact, I found in my life that I have a tendency to spend more money when I don't have it than I do when I have it. If I have it, you know, you have it in your pocket, I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to spend it. If I don't have it, I say, what the heck, I don't have it anyway, I might as well get more in debt. You know? And not having money is very stressful. And we start perceiving ourselves as sometimes as less than successful because our society equates money with success. Why? If they have a nice home and drive a nice car and have money to spend, then they must be successful and they must be happy. Right? Huh? You can have lots of money and not be happy, but isn't that the message we get from society in general, though? That money equals happiness? But wouldn't all of us like to have the chance to see if we could be? Yeah, I could be happy if I had money. It's their problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but money ain't everything.
You're right. You're exactly right. Money is not everything. But it can influence our self-esteem, can't it?
Right.
Not that it should, but it can.
Well, I mean, I put $13.50 an hour job in school because, it's tearing my family apart.
I did the same, well, not 13 hour 50 cent job, but I was in management for a restaurant, making good money, just fine. Came home and said to my wife, I want to go back to school. I'm not happy. This isn't what I want to do.
Right.
So I went to the exciting, thriving career of education, where I made lots and lots of money. All right. I have another one for you. Gender. How does gender affect our self-esteem? It is. So there's no difference then, if there's no ideas how gender affects your self-esteem, there's no difference in how the world treats you if you're a man or if you're a woman, right?
There's a big difference.
There's a big difference. There is.
Big difference.
How so?
Oh, I'm not being a sexist or anything. I just think that men have it more over women in a lot of areas.
In what way?
Finances, scholastic power. I think people look to a man for answers before they will women, and that's wrong. I know a lot of very smart women. I think the male is the dominant species, and that's just the way it is.
The world treats men and women differently. Women get paid, I forgot what the latest figure is. Do you remember? It's like 85 cents for every man's dollar, or 65 cents? Okay, and it's somewhere between 65 and 85. 75 cents for every dollar that a man makes, a woman makes. For the exact same job, doing the exact same thing. And probably, quite frankly, had to work a lot harder to get it. Okay? So gender influence, because see, our self-esteem is very much based on how people respond to us. And that makes it difficult.
Is self-esteem tied to gender, though?
It can very closely be, because our self-esteem is so closely tied with how the world responds to us. You know, huh?
I don't see that as I see it as a lot of problem, but I don't see a woman being dissatisfied with being a woman.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh.
No, I'm not saying that these are negative things about self-esteem. That these are things that influence our self-esteem, one way or the other. It's part of the whole puzzle. Gender plays a role in it. The other thing is that men and women view the world differently. If the world views them differently, then do they view the world differently? There are studies that say they do, by the way. A couple of books out right now. One's called You Just Don't Understand by a lady named Deborah Tannen, and the other is called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. They are both examining the differences in how men and women view the world and communicate differently. And because our self-esteem is so tied with how the world views us and how well we are successful in that world arena, then oftentimes it can be tied to gender. I like this little...
A lot of it's changing now, though.
Supposedly.
Is it easier for a woman to go back to school though than it is for,
In what way?
I mean, it would be easier.
Might be more funding, but...
No, it'd be easier for a woman like, men supposed to be head of the household. It'd be easier for one of them to quit a job at school and do the language.
If you have a traditional view of how the family should run, but that's not necessarily how
Not
a lot of
nowadays.
people. And there are a lot of single mothers, single women who are supporting a family. So it's difficult for them, I think. And yeah, supposedly that's changing, but not very fast. Not very
You
quickly.
see more of today change than you did 10 years ago.
But it's very much, yes you do, very much still an influence there. I like this cartoon here. I don't know if you read Kathy, but I think this illustrates the difference in how men and women look at it. It says, she's on the phone with her boyfriend Irving, and he says, okay, I'll see you later, Kathy. And she says, later as in tonight, or later as in sometime in this lifetime. And he says, oh, give me a call sometime. And she said, give you a call as in you respect my right to take the initiative, or give you a call as in call only when you specifically ask. And he says, oh, you're right, Kathy, well, I've got to go. And she says, I'm a riot as in you love me, or I'm a riot as in we just broke up. And then she ends it with, men should come with instruction booklets. And I like that because I think that it is typical that how oftentimes we have that sort of communication problem. And that does influence our self-esteem, because isn't that our self-concept is a lot of times very closely tied with how well we interrelate with the opposite sex. And when we have those sorts of problems, we wonder sometimes, what's the deal? How can we solve that? So gender is another one. Anything else?
Your race.
Your race. Very good. That was your race or your culture. The world treats you differently because of your race, doesn't it? Not that it should, but it does. And these are not necessarily, like I said, negative things. Because of our race or our culture, we have a heritage that may be different. And it helps define who we are, right? Our heritage defines who we are, where we come from, where our ancestors come from. They're also our language. If we have a language problem, sometimes it can be kind of sticky. All right. And we have to deal with those all the time, by the way, with race and culture. And here on this campus, there are many instances of that. I know we have several non-English speaking, non-native English speaking students here. I've had them in my classes, and I know they have a lot to overcome in order to get their goals accomplished. And that can be a very time-consuming and strenuous activity for them to accomplish the same goals that some of us may be able to accomplish more easily. And that is very closely tied into how good we feel about ourselves is how many goals we accomplish. Do we set our goals and accomplish them? And if it's more difficult for us to accomplish them, then obviously we're going to have a harder time then. Right? All right. Any last thing there on those? All right, turn in your booklet then to the empowerment questionnaire. You have an empowerment questionnaire. And before we do that, I want to define what empowerment is. That should be, by the way, I think it's the second document. It's the one right before forming first impressions. Empowerment is one's perception of his or her influence or control of life, okay? The way that we're doing it. And this questionnaire asks you to make some decisions real quickly. It asks you to go through and make a choice, A and B, and divide a total of 5 points between those two, okay? So if you look at the first one, it says, when I give a paper, or let's see what it says, when I have to give a talk or write a paper, I, A, base the content of my talk or paper on my own ideas, or B, do a lot of research and present the findings of others in my paper or talk. You need to rate those. 5, 0 if it's all one and none of the other. 4, 1 if it's mostly one and very little of the other. 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 4, you get it? 5 points scatter in between them, okay? Then after you're through, you add up your A totals and your B totals, okay? Just take a few minutes to do that. Question? Like you would hear. Well, after you talk about a paper, do you mainly base the findings on your talk or paper on your ideas, or do you look research and it's mainly A and then it'll be to be like there at the bottom. Finish them, you can finish them up later. Basically what this empowerment questionnaire does is give you a little bit, it's just one guide of giving you an idea of how empowered you feel, how much you feel like you have an influence on what happens in your life. And I think that's a real important thing, is to feel like you have some sort of influence on what happens. I like this little comic. This is an old Lucy and Charlie Brown here. Of course, Lucy always has 5 cents of help there. And Charlie Brown says, what can you do when you don't fit in? What can you do when life seems to be passing you by? And she says, follow me, I want to show you something. See the horizon over there? See how big this world is? See how much room there is for everybody? And have you ever seen any other world? And he says, no. And he says, as far as you know, is this the only world there is, right? And he says, well, yeah, right. There are no other worlds for you to live in, right? Well, right. You were born to live in this world, right? And he says, well, right. And she says, well, live in it then. And she says, well, 5 cents, please. And although that might not be the most kind advice, quite frankly, people, that is the way it is, right? We can't change the world. We've talked about how society rejects us or accepts us according to this or to that, and we have these whole things, and we can't do a whole lot about what society says, but we can do something about ourselves, right? You cannot determine, could not determine who your parents were, couldn't determine whether you were born rich or poor, short or fat, tall or skinny, or short or fat, tall or skinny, short, fat or skinny, whatever. Whether you were an athlete or an academic or whatever, you couldn't determine that. But what you can decide is how you're going to respond to what life has given you, right? And it's up to you what you can do. So let's brainstorm here for a few minutes. And we have a few minutes left, by the way. Some things that we can do to improve or encourage a good or positive self-image? What are some things we can do to build our self-esteem? Because we all want to do that. Even those of us who feel like we have a fairly good, strong, positive self-esteem, we'd always like to know how to build it a little bit. How can we do that? Suggestions? What? Sorry. Positive thinking. Think positively. I like the guy here who said he's thinking positively. He's an echo point. And he says, "You're a very fine fellow." About himself, of course, which comes back, "You're a very fine fellow." He gives himself those positive reinforcements. He evidently is not getting them anywhere else. Or maybe he is getting them someplace else, but he decides that, he needs to tell himself that as well. And if you've gone to any of those self-esteem building seminars, by the way, that's what they tell you to do. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Hey, you're an all right fella. You're pretty good. You're going to be able to achieve and to do what you set your mind to doing." So, as this guy says, tell yourself you're a happy fella. You're a good guy. Okay, think positively. What else can we do? What? Smile? What do we say? What difference does that make? What? Because you smile. What happens when you smile generally?
The whole world smiles with you.
Oh yes, and when you cry alone. Yes, when we smile, it is most of the time people will return that smile. If you want to get a smile, give one, right? But it's true. It's like telling yourself that you're going to feel better. So you start smiling, or whistling a tune, or whatever, and surprisingly enough, you start feeling better. Sometimes you have to make yourself feel better by doing those things that you do when you feel good. And so then all of a sudden, you trick your mind into realizing that you really are doing okay. What else? We can think positively. Be encouraging. Okay? To yourself or to others or what?
To yourself and to others.
Okay. That's one of the keys, by the way. Not something you'll always hear a lot, but one of the best ways to help yourself is to help somebody else. Because usually when we're feeling down on ourselves, we have a tendency to get more and more involved in ourselves and think about our own problems, and it just is the spiral downward. It's like a great big sinkhole. But if we look outside ourselves and try to help somebody else, then we'll find not only are we feel better because we've helped somebody, but we've gotten our mind off our own problems and realize that actually everybody else is just as bad, if not worse. And so we can feel good, and that will help ourselves, right, by being encouraging. Anything else? Yes. There is something else. How about seek counsel? Okay? And I'm not talking just necessarily a professional, but how about friends? Family? Strangers you meet on the street? Yeah. I need a self-esteem book. You want to seek counsel. Get some wise counsel. I like this one. I have a little cartoon here that's surprisingly. And I like this one. This young man has gone to his instructor, the school psychologist, to get a little bit of help. And she says to him, "Ira, if you feel you're disliked by everyone, it's probably because you dislike yourself." And he says, "I do." "Well, then, golly, it's unanimous." Okay? I don't like me, and nobody else does either. Okay? And sometimes that, we may feel like that's the thing, but I think the psychologist is probably giving this guy a little bit of insight there, saying maybe you need to start looking at yourself differently. Then you can feel better about yourself. Other people will treat you differently. Anything else? Yes. Being pleasant is nice, okay? I'm not talking about a fake smile all the time, but considering, yeah, oh, I'm happy all the time. That's not the point, okay? But if you're a pleasant person to be around, if you're a happy person, or if you are trying to look at what you can do favorably from a situation, then you're more apt to have people around you who will give you those positive feedback. And see, that's really, we are all a lot of times just mirrors of what we've been given. And although we are responsible for our own actions, we want to get those positive reinforcements from people. And that's one way to get the positive reinforcements is to be pleasant. I like this lady here. This is my last cartoon, okay? But I like it because it really typifies some people's outlook on life. She says this, she looks out at the stars. Sure, it's beautiful, but I can't help thinking about all the interstellar dust out there. And you've known people like that they cannot see a positive thing in anything. And if you try to be a little more positive, then perhaps you'll find that you don't feel quite so down, and that your concept is not, shouldn't be so low as it is. And number 6, be realistic. Okay? Generally, an extremely low self-esteem or a low self-concept in particular area is because we do not have realistic goals for ourselves. We're not looking at ourselves realistically. I mean, you can probably remember when you were 13 years old and you woke up one day and there's a great big huge zit at the end of your nose, right? And you decided that everybody at school is going to be looking at you. Well, they probably were. But actually, no, they probably weren't at 13 because everybody's thinking the exact same thing. And they have these same sorts of things that everybody is looking at them. And that's the unrealistic. The world does not revolve around any one individual, right? And so, by being realistic, you need to set realistic goals. If your strength is not in math, then don't set a goal for yourself to be a physicist, an engineer, you know? Makes sense, right? You set realistic goals for yourself. I would never have set out to be a math teacher, quite frankly. I do well. I don't balance a checkbook, by the way. My wife does that. Because I can do that, but that's not what I do well, particularly. Set realistic goals. Look at yourself realistically. What do I do well? What do I not do quite so well? It's okay that I'm not this and such, okay? But this is what I do well, so I'm going to play to my strengths. And look at others realistically. Because if we are continually comparing ourselves to someone else, which isn't a good thing to do, but if you have a tendency to do that, you need to be sure you're looking at them realistically too. You don't know all the things about that person. You don't know what, you know, my grandmother always used to say, if her problems and somebody else's problems were wrapped up in a brown paper wrapper, she wouldn't trade, okay? Because she doesn't know what their problems are. And you have to be realistic about other people as well as be realistic about yourself and your goals. And by doing those sorts of things, if you feel like you need particular help, and seeking counsel doesn't necessarily mean you talk to someone about your problems, but you need to go about and do those sorts of things and talk to those sorts of people and get information from that can be useful to you. And number 7 is a good number to end on, okay, because that's a lucky number. And it's just totally left my head now, even as we speak. But let's see. Don't embarrass yourself in front of a lot of people while you can't think of the last thing I was thinking is a little C pencil. Da, 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 da. I know. Assert yourself. See, wasn't that good? It just took me a minute. I could practice. Assert yourself. Okay? That means don't let people run all over you, right? It doesn't mean be a pain. It means don't let people step on you. Start yourself, and if you have a question, ask it. If you don't know about where something is, ask someone, find out where it is. You have to decide that it's up to you. Okay? It's not up to anybody else. It's up to you whether you're going to be successful here or not. And success is very closely tied to a positive self-image, a positive self-esteem. And here at OSU Okmulgee, if you're going to be successful, it's nobody else's fault if you fail, and it's nobody else's credit if you succeed, except your own. Stop making excuses and just decide that you're going to be successful. You're going to do it. You will find who you need to help you. You will do what you need to do to be successful. And take the bull by the horns and go for it. That's about the only way you can guarantee, at least, that you're going to continue to try and be successful. All right. Anything anybody wants to add on that? Any other way to build your self-esteem? Questions? Comments? Read any good books lately? Joe, good movies. All right. I want to thank you for your time, for your participation, the input that I've gotten from you. I've enjoyed it. We thank you for choosing OSU Okmulgee. We know you have many educational choices. You can fly the airline, drive. We know you can charge. I know they can choose Continental. But we do thank you for coming here, and we hope that this college strategist will be a helpful course to you that can help equip you to be successful here while you're at college. I encourage you that if you have any questions, if I can help you in any way, just let me know. I'm in the general, I won't tell you where I am. I'm in the general education building, room 7 most of the time. If you have any questions, or I can help you in any way. And even if it's that, you want to know now where exactly is the stateroom, or if you want to know where the bakery is, I can lead you there, where that is. So anything I can do to help you, just let me know.